Hello everyone. In this presentation, an attempt is made to give a bird's eye view of the contribution of the Supreme Court in the last 4 decades by liberally interpreting Article 21, reading it along with other fundamental rights, directive principles, and international instruments. The preamble to the Constitution secures to the citizens of India justice, liberty, equality, and fraternity. Fundamental rights in Part 3 and directive principles of state policy in Part 4 of the Constitution are intended to give effect to these objectives. Fundamental rights guaranteed by the Constitution would have been of no use if there was no effective mechanism for their enforcement. Therefore, the right to move the Supreme Court by appropriate proceedings to enforce the fundamental rights is also provided under Article 32, which is again a fundamental right. Article 21 of the Indian Constitution guarantees the fundamental right to life and personal liberty to every person. It states that no person shall be deprived of his life or personal liberty except according to the procedure established by law. When the Supreme Court was approached for the first time in 1950 to interpret Articles 21 and 22 of the Constitution, in A.K. Gopalan versus State of Madras, the court held that the only safeguard provided by Article 21 was that a person could not be deprived of his life or personal liberty except according to the procedure prescribed by a state-made law. The court favored strict and literal interpretation rule while interpreting the provisions of the Constitution, including Part 3. The way Article 21 was interpreted by the majority in Gopalan's case meant that Article 21 created a restriction only on the executive, which could not act without law, and it was ineffective against legislative power, which could make any law howsoever drastic to impose restraint on personal liberty without being obligated to lay down any reasonable procedure for the purpose. Judicial attitude towards the protection of personal liberty changed after painful experiences of emergency during 1975-77 when personal liberty had reached its lowest watermark. The Supreme Court's decision in ADM Jabalpur versus Shivkant Shukla showed that Article 21 as interpreted in Gopalan case could not provide any protection against any harsh law seeking to deprive a person of his life or personal liberty. The Supreme Court held that Article 21 was the sole repository of the right to life and personal liberty against its illegal deprivation by the executive. In case enforcement of Article 21 was suspended by a presidential order under Article 359, that is, during emergency, the court could not inquire whether the executive action depriving a person of his life or personal liberty was authorized by law. After emergency, the Supreme Court in Maneka Gandhi versus Union of India changed this position and gave a fundamental character to the right in Article 21. This was done by establishing a relationship between Articles 14, 19 and 21, which was denied in Gopalan. It was held that Article 21 does not exclude Article 19, and a law prescribing a procedure for depriving a person of personal liberty will have to meet the requirement of Article 21 and also of Article 19 as well as of Article 14. It was explained that the principle of reasonableness, which is an essential element of equality or non-arbitrariness, pervading Article 14, must also apply with equal force to the procedure contemplated by Article 21. That is, the procedure must be right, just and fair and not arbitrary, fanciful or oppressive. In order that the procedure is right, just and fair, it should conform to the principles of natural justice. In the present case, it was held that any procedure which permits impairment of the constitutional right to go abroad without giving a reasonable opportunity to show cause has to be condemned as unfair and unjust. Since Maneka Gandhi's case, Article 21 proved to be multidimensional. It has been interpreted along with international charters on human rights to imply certain rights from them. In the process of expanding the ambit of Article 21, many directive principles have been integrated with Article 21. In addition, new fundamental rights have also been implied by the Supreme Court. The court went ahead to create new tools and devise new remedies for upholding the most precious fundamental right, the right to life and personal liberty. The decision in Maneka Gandhi's case made a beneficial impact on criminal justice administration in India. Article 21 became an effective tool in the hands of the Supreme Court to tackle the excesses and inadequacies in the administration of criminal justice. The various issues that have been touched upon by the Supreme Court in exercise of its power of judicial review include arrest and investigation, custodial violence, bail, speedy trial, legal aid, and certain other aspects of fair trial. Investigation into the offence commences on the strength of the first information report. Inaction of the police to record FIRs, and where FIR is recorded on court's directions, apathy to investigate the cases led the Supreme Court to issue directions and guidelines regarding the registration of FIR. The Supreme Court consistently held that investigation must be fair, transparent, and judicious. Tainted and biased investigation and consequent prejudice and harassment to any party violates Article 21 of the Constitution and cannot be permitted to continue and hence can be quashed. Illegal arrests affect the esteem and reputation of an arrested person. The court issued requirements to be followed in all cases of arrest or detention till legal provisions are made in that behalf as preventive measures. The Supreme Court in a number of cases expressed concern at the atrocities perpetuated by the protectors of law and order and issued directions to the authorities and awarded compensation to the victims of custodial violence, bringing it within the purview of Article 21. The court also issued guidelines for proper, thorough, structured, and independent investigation of police encounters causing death or grievous hurt. The court held that accountability of the wrongdoer and the responsibility of the state have to be fixed in such cases. Bail is another aspect of criminal justice administration which involved exercise of discretion by police and lower courts. When the matter pertaining to under trials lamenting in jails due to their incapacity to provide sureties due to poverty was brought to the notice of the Supreme Court issued directions for their release on personal bonds. The Supreme Court was instrumental in recognizing speedy trial and legal aid to be implicit in the spectrum of Article 21. The court even went to the extent of directing the release of under trials who have been in jail for periods longer than the maximum term of imprisonment for which they could be sentenced on conviction, providing suitable conditions for fair trial, which include open trial, presumption of innocence of the accused, right of the accused to know the accusation, right to take evidence in accused presence, right to produce evidence in defense, right against self-incrimination, and protection of witnesses and victims were aspects which came before the Supreme Court under Articles 32 and 136, and the court issued appropriate directions to the lower courts to the effect that unless these safeguards are ensured in a trial cannot be a fair trial, and a trial which is not fair violates the guarantee provided under Article 21 of the Constitution. Prison administration is another area which received the attention of the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court held that right to life is one of the basic human rights. It is guaranteed to every person by Article 21 and not even the state has the authority to violate that right. A prisoner, be he a convict, an under trial or a détenu, does not cease to be a human being even when lodged in jail, and he continues to enjoy all his fundamental rights, including the right to life guaranteed to him under the Constitution. On being convicted of crime and deprived of their liberty in accordance with the procedure established by law, prisoners still retain the residue of constitutional rights. Another manifestation of the dynamic constitutional jurisprudence is the award of compensation to the victims who suffered at the hands of callous and irresponsible officers of the government. The Supreme Court went ahead to forge new tools and devise new remedies for vindicating the most precious of the fundamental rights, the right to life and personal liberty. The court felt that it would be rendering only lip service to right to life and liberty if it does not award compensation to victims of illegal detention, custodial violence, and such other state aggression. The activist judges of the Supreme Court, with the aid of Articles 32 and 141, issued directions to various instrumentalities of state to better the conditions of the weaker sections of the society by interpreting the term life in Article 21 to include various aspects which go to make it meaningful. Right to live with human dignity, free from exploitation, was declared to be implied in Article 21, read with Articles 23 and 24 and the directive principles, particularly those contained in clauses E and F of Article 39, Articles 41 and 42. The court issued directions in a number of cases to release and rehabilitate bonded laborers, to eradicate begging and rehabilitate beggars, protect children from immoral trafficking, prostitution, illegal organ trade, and rehabilitate sexually abused women. Right to silence, privacy, freedom from noise, and right to have proper rest and sleep have been included within the purview of Article 21. While including right to livelihood within the purview of Article 21, the Supreme Court held that if right to livelihood is not treated as a part of constitutional right to life, the easiest way of depriving a person of his right to life would be to deprive him of his means of livelihood to the point of abrogation. Right to quality life, right to shelter, including shelters for urban homeless, right to health and medical aid, reading directives under Articles 39E, 41, 42, 43, and 48A with Article 21, right to know or right to information in order to enable people to take part in participatory development in industrial life and democracy, and right to reputation, which constitute various facets of life, have been included in right to life through judicial pronouncements of the Supreme Court by expanding the scope of Article 21 of the Constitution. The Supreme Court gave expansive interpretation to Article 21 by reading various directive principles like Articles 38, clauses A, E, and F of Article 39, Articles 41, 45, and 46, and international covenants and conventions like the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, International Covenant on Economic and Social Rights, Convention Against Elimination of Discrimination Against Women, and Convention on Rights of Child, and issued necessary directions and guidelines to the authorities concerned to ensure that women and children are properly equipped to live their lives with basic human dignity. While women suffered from gender discrimination, sexual violence, eve teasing, female feticide, lack of reproductive choices, and sexual exploitation, the children suffered from the problems of child labor, exploitation, and sexual abuse. Whenever there was no legal regime to take care of the above problems and issues, the Supreme Court attempted to fill the vacuum and provide legal status and activate the government machinery to positively and favorably respond to the problems of women and children with the help of Article 21 of the Constitution. To cite an example, the Supreme Court made a novel use of Article 21 in order to ensure that female workers are not subjected to sexual harassment. The court held that sexual harassment at workplace amounted to violation of the right of gender equality and right to life and liberty under Articles 14, 15, and 21 by reading the international conventions and norms into the fundamental rights when there is no inconsistency between them and there is a gap in the domestic law. Rape was held to be a crime against basic human dignity of a woman and hence violative of Article 21. The court further held that it had the power to award compensation to the victims of rape before the final conviction of the offender. The Supreme Court also took up the grievances of members of transgender community who sought legal declaration of their gender identity and claimed legal status as third gender with all legal and constitutional protection. The Supreme Court held that self-determination of gender is an integral part of personal autonomy and self-expression and falls within the realm of personal liberty guaranteed under Article 21 of the Constitution. It was again the Supreme Court which was instrumental in declaring right to education as a fundamental right by reading Article 21 with the directive principles relating to compulsory education under Articles 39, 41, 45, and 46 cumulatively as a constituent of right to life under Article 21. The court implied that the right to education is a fundamental right under Article 21, observing that without making right to education a reality, fundamental rights including freedom of speech and expression and other freedoms guaranteed under Article 19 cannot be fully appreciated and enjoyed. The court held that life means life with dignity. Right to life is the compendious expression for all those rights which are basic to the dignified enjoyment of life. Subsequently, the right was restricted to providing free and compulsory education until he completes the age of 14 years. Beyond that stage, the state's obligation is subject to the limits of the economic capacity and development of the state. Another area in which the Supreme Court contributed significantly is the area of ecology and environment. Disturbing ecological balance and tinkering with the natural conditions of rivers, forests, air, and water, which are the gifts of nature, affects the quality of life of people. Right to life includes right to quality life, which in turn would mean that a person has a right to the enjoyment of pollution free air and water to enjoy life fully. The activist approach of the Supreme Court resulted in taking cognizance of various environmental problems in a number of cases and giving necessary directions to the central and state governments and to the concerned authorities for prevention of pollution, protection of environment, and conservation of forests and wildlife. Doctrines like public trust doctrine, polluter pays principle, doctrine of sustainable development, and precautionary principle have been applied along with Articles 47, 48A, and 51AG to protect the rapidly deteriorating quality of air and water. In addition, when rights were violated by disturbing the environment, the court awarded damages for compensating victims of disturbance as well as for restoring the ecological balance. The directions for removal of hazardous and obnoxious industries from the residential areas, direction for closure of certain hazardous industries, directions for closure of slaughterhouses and its relocation, direction issued for protecting ancient monuments including the Taj Trapezium, directions for setting up effluent treatment plants to industries, directions to tanneries in Kanpur and Kolkata in order to stop polluting Ganga River, directions to control vehicular pollution in Delhi and other cities, etc., are some of the judgments that seek to enforce protection of environment. The court appointed expert committees wherever necessary and monitored the implementation of its directions for years to check environmental degradation. The Supreme Court also issued directions for stopping and regulating mining operations. Steps have also been taken by the court to ensure spreading of awareness about the conservation of environment among people, including children. To the list of rights read as implied in Article 21, the latest addition has been the right to privacy. The Supreme Court held that privacy is a constitutionally protected right which emerges primarily from the guarantee of life and personal liberty in Article 21 of the Constitution, and elements of privacy also arise in varying contexts from the other facets of freedom and dignity recognized and guaranteed by the fundamental rights contained in Part 3. The court further declared that privacy includes at its core the preservation of personal intimacies, the sanctity of family life, marriage, procreation, the home, and sexual orientation. Privacy also connotes a right to be left alone. It safeguards individual autonomy and recognizes the ability of the individual to control vital aspects of his or her life. Personal choices governing a way of life are intrinsic to privacy. Privacy protects heterogeneity and recognizes the plurality and diversity of our culture. Thus, from Maneka onwards, started a period in the history of Supreme Court wherein new principles of interpretation were developed based on concepts like locus standi, public interest litigation, and due process of law. The judges of Supreme Court were conscious of the fact that they were working in Indian society and they were interpreting the Constitution of India in fast changing social and economic conditions. This, in brief, is a bird's eye view of the contribution of the Supreme Court in the last 4 decades by liberally interpreting Article 21, reading it along with other fundamental rights, directive principles, and international instruments. Thank you.